Can you see the nice blue water behind me? Are you jealous?
Yeah. I can. I am. Yeah, I
Are you
am
jealous?
actually.
Okay, here we go. From Cancun, got your back, coming down in 3. Good morning and welcome to Got Your Back, brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Nobody puts in wood windows or siding anymore, so why would you build a wood fence or deck? Do it once with high-quality, maintenance-free vinyl. Call my brothers, Rick or Rob, at DLR Vinyl Products, locations in Calgary and Edmonton. Today on the podcast from Cancun, Leon Draisaitl gutted his way to goal number 50 and point number 100 in Anaheim on Sunday night. It was impressive. In our Park Mazda breakdown with Struds, we'll ask the question, should he have been playing after he took that nick? And in our De Boer's Golf Shop, Who's Got Your Back segment, Darren Dreger checks in to do some storytelling. From Cancun, presented by DLR Vinyl Products, this is Got Your Back, Tropical Edition. Okay, Struddy, I know my color is a mess. The shirt is pink. The face is a little orange, but none of it matters because behind me over there is tropical blue, buddy. Tropical blue water.
Yeah, I love it. Jimmy Buffett. I didn't realize we had Jimmy Buffett doing his Margaritaville. We're all here at home. You know, I think I'm getting a bit of a sore throat. My son was sick. Now it's transferring to me. So, yeah, I'm loving life right now, but I'm not jealous at all.
Yeah, well, I'll ponder that for you. I'll contemplate that a little bit while I'm poolside with my, what was the name of the drinks we were drinking yesterday, hon? The good ones? Oh, the Miami Vice. Have you had the Miami Vice poolside, Struddy?
I believe I have, but it's been many years now. Feels like a decade.
All right. Well, I'll stop rubbing it in and we can get to the game last night. Time for the breakdown brought to you by Park Mazda, where the newly redesigned 2022 CX-5 has arrived. Check out the brand new all-wheel drive sport design trim with its turbocharged engine and see the available colors and trims in stock at parkmazda.ca. So the Oilers strike out on the road. Their road record hasn't been nearly as good as their home record over the last month and a half or so, Struddy. But in a game where they needed to take care of business, I think it's fair to say they went out there and just got down to business and took care of it, didn't they?
Yeah, it was clear, very mature. You know, it's something we've talked a lot about as being a mature team, understanding the moment. Now, this wasn't a moment that was like the Stanley Cup Finals, but it was a moment that was important to come out and assert yourself early. And I thought right through the lineup, I thought everyone brought their best game. Mike Smith, although not tested a lot, made some, couple saves, in that first period that kind of just gave the guys a chance. But the Oilers came out and pushed. They scored, and put the Ducks on their heels. The Ducks are a young team. They have guys that are probably playing too far up the lineup. A goalie who has zero confidence right now. Like that is not the John Gibson that I remember watching play the last couple of years. So they brought what they needed to. And I thought they did a fantastic job, mature game. And that's, I think, something that I've been advocating for from this group for quite a while since Woodcroft took over.
So let's get to Leon Draisaitl right away, because I think probably as Oiler fans were watching the game, and the broadcast did a pretty good job of showing all things Leon Draisaitl after he took that injury. They showed him on the bench, kind of wincing in pain. They showed him on the ice, shaking the leg out. They showed him, taking a quick twirl before the end of the period. I don't know if you were thinking the same thing, but I think the immediate instinct is just shut him down. Like, this is too important. It's too important. Just shut him down. And I think Oiler fans are probably feeling that same thing. But it's a little bit different, I would imagine, when you're in the locker room, you're in the moment, sitting at 49 goals, close to 100 points. You have a better sense for just how serious the situation is.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't think they should shut him down right away. I think that in that moment, when you injure something, you're not sure how bad it is, right? How severe it is. So you could tell he kept shaking his knee out. He kept shaking, seeing what it is. It looked to me like he hammered his knee against the end boards. Yeah. And I think it was a bad bruise. My concern was maybe there's some instability in that joint. Here I am sounding like a doctor, but because even after that period, the way he was walking and shaking it, because I've hurt my knees before, and when you stretch a ligament, it feels loose, and you're like, why does this feel weird? Like, what's going on? And it looked to me like that's what he was trying to do. Now, again, I wasn't there. I have no idea. That's just what I've been through that, so I felt it. But the fact that he came back and played, it looked like it was a bit of pain, pain more than loose. because, when you strain your knee, I never thought it was a ton of pain. It was just felt really weird. It felt really weird. So I thought it was great that he stayed in there. I think that's a good thing. Does he play the next game? I don't know. Who knows? But I think Oilers fans should be encouraged, because there's no way that the training staff would put him out there if there was risk of more damage. There's not a chance they would do that. So they're a good training staff. They know what they're doing. Leon knows his body. He gets his 50th goal, which was a sick play by Kulak. No one's talking about this pass by Kulak. I loved it. The shot was amazing, but let's give the D-man some love. That was a sick play by him. That. It was literally, as my wife would say, a kitty corner one-time pass. The Ducks had no sticks and lanes. It was awful defending, but great pass, great shot. So getting back to Leon, I think he's fine to play.
You are so passionate, most passionate, Struds, when you're talking about the amazing plays of a depth defenseman. It brings something out of you. You just start to glow.
Yeah.
Your voice kicks up a little bit. You just seem passionate.
I can't relate to those guys because I never played that far down the lineup. But I mean, you got to give the guy some love. You got to give him some love when he sees a play like that. Everyone's talking about Leon, and 50 is amazing. But I thought Leon did a good job after. He talked about, it's special, but it's my teammates helping me out, and it is. I know he's the one shooting and he's getting position, but you got to get those passes to you, and they have to get the passes to him. So I thought Leon in that moment really understood the correct thing to say.
Yeah, for sure. Let's listen to Jay Woodcroft here as we go to our Average Joe sound box. Average Joe's next to Home Depot on Baseline Road in Sherwood Park, addressing the injury situation with Draisaitl and the call they made at the moment.
Leon's a big, tough guy, and he plays through bumps and bruises. And he had a little bit of a bump there, but it was never in doubt that he would return. It was just a bruise, and as I said, he's a big, strong guy that plays through those.
So Woodcroft saying he's a big, strong guy that just plays through those. When I saw the replay again, Struds, it looked to me kind of like you mentioned, like he banged that knee on the boards, but it looked like it hit pretty flat. But when you're on your knee like that, sometimes you don't have the protection of the shin pad. It feels like it looked to me like it was maybe a bruise just above the kneecap, where you may be wondering is the kneecap itself damaged, or is it just a bruise in that kind of cartilage there? But the way he was shaking it out and such, I think, good on him. Like he wants that 50 goals. He wants the 2 points more than anything. And you want to be careful with your star players, but they got to set an example too. Leon Draisaitl is not going to want to come out of that game.
I know, no, for sure. And he's going to be sore. There's no doubt. When he woke up the morning after the game, he's going to be sore. I doubt he'll practice today. He probably not even morning skate. Maybe he'll just do a little light to test it out. But they're going to have, they're going to be doing treatment on that thing 24 hours a day, right? Giving it the comfort, because you don't want to get if it gets too swollen, it's really hard to move. So we're going to try to keep some of that swelling out of there. You know what? They're going to look after it. He's a prized possession for this team, but he is also going to push to play, and they're going to want to make sure they monitor these all right. So if this happens to Zach Kassian, it's not as much of a talking point, but because it's Leon and the impact he has on this team, it's a very big discussion.
Now, I want to talk about the way they scored a couple of the goals last night. And I thought that they had control of some really important details in their game. So you think about Connor McDavid, and I think Oilers fans probably take it for granted a little bit. As a media watching him, you do a little bit as well. Just how much of a lock he is on zone entries, not just on the power play, but when he gets the puck and he has a bit of speed through the neutral zone, he's a lock to get it into the zone. And that zone entry on the first goal, really, it doesn't happen unless he's able to gain the line the way he did. And there were 2 or 3 guys converging on him at the time. So a zone entry on the one goal, and then another detail study, the face-off, the Draisaitl won clean, and the winger coming in to help out. Those are little details that I think make a massive difference and did last night.
Yeah, those are 2 great points. The other thing I want to highlight was people in front of the net. How often do we see shots? We think of Kulak's goal, Connor's goal, Barry's goal. Just off the top of my head, that's 50% of the goals. There was guys in front, and when you go to front of the net, you're dragging a defender with you. So now 1 becomes 2, or 2 becomes 4, right? So, I think that's something that's really got to be said and understood, that It's an important part of the game. And we saw it, was it the Oilers against the Blackhawks 2 years ago, where, the Hawks went to the net, and how many times did they get tips off their body, tips off their stick, and the Oilers were unable to defend or unwilling to defend either the shot or that guy in front. So you look towards the playoffs. How are you going to score? There are going to have to be some ugly ones. And I think getting to the net and those two areas, specifically wingers helping out on the faceoffs, is absolutely huge.
Yeah. So I look at Jesse Puljujarvi's night. I think his hands have taken a little bit of time to come, but I really think they've come around since he's come back from injury here. So he's starting to make those plays that allow him to play with those high-end guys and keep plays alive and make plays with them. But his work in the corners and his work in front of the net, I think, are really a huge benefit too. So he finishes with 4 shots, 5 attempts, finishes with 3 hits, a goal. He's +2. And looking like, the combination of him and Hyman on the ice together, the puck retrieval abilities, or him and Yamamoto on the ice together, sort of depending on whoever ends up out there. But to have that kind of puck retrieval ability on a line it's pretty impressive and really critical when you've got a guy like McDavid out there too, who needs the puck.
Yeah, that's for sure. Not to suggest that Connor doesn't go and get it, because he'll also dig in there and get it. But when you're on the winger, you have to understand your role with Connor McDavid. Your job is to be disruptive. And disrupt is what Puljujarvi and Hyman do. You've got to get in there. You've got to help them out on face-off, help them out on puck retrievals in the corner, get to the front of the net, and just generally cause disruption, because that gives him, areas to work in. If you're just simply playing a simple game and trying to stand in the slot, waiting for him to pass you, it's not going to work. Connor he thrives in the chaos that is left behind his line mates, moving around and buzzing and bumping into guys. And that's where he's at his best. So, it's everyone thinks it's easy to play with Connor, and it is in a way, but to actually be a partner to him and not just someone who's riding along, it's two much different conversations.
Yeah, for sure. Dustin Nielsen kind of on Twitter does these 3 thoughts after each game and asks fans what they think. And his third thought was interesting to me. He said, I can't remember exactly the way he put it, but basically Kulak will be an Oiler next season. And remember, they make this trade for a guy that comes in and can help them for now, but is it more of a long-term thing? From what you've seen so far, do you think that management is looking at this going, local guy, good fit so far, has mobility? Do you think he's here next year?
He skates really well, moves the puck. I wish he had a little more physicality to himself. I think he has to add that ability, continue to add that penalty killing element. They're going to need it. I'm not convinced that, Barry and Bouchard right now need to be killing penalties. I'm not sure that's the right answer. So can he add the penalty kill? Yes, he's very mobile. I think he comes off as a very smart player. So I think he can add that. And with Manson working with him, I think he can add that element. So projecting for next year, yes. Like I like teams that sign players they know. They know now the money makes a big difference. Instead of bringing somebody you don't know on a contract you're not sure of, if you can find a money that works for him, because you have to remember, he's a third pairing guy. He's behind Nurse, who's clearly the top guy. And then you have Keith or Kulak. So is he 2? Is he 2? Is he 3? Is he 2B? I'm not sure where they all end up. But if you bring him in though, you got him or keep him. Where does Broberg slot in? All right. So Broberg, he's a lefty. He does play right. But if you have Keith, Kulak, and Nurse, they're all playing on the money they'll have. So that means on the other side, you have CC, Barry, Bouchard. Where's Broberg? Broberg's when Broberg's training in the summer and he's lifting weights and doing bench press and he's thinking, man, I can't wait to play on this team this year. Oh, wait a minute. Where am I going to play? Where's my spot? So where's the upward movement that can happen? So if you're signing Kulak, someone's got to go. There's got to be a chance or an opportunity for Broberg to push his way into this team.
Yeah, I could see that depth spot on the left side being a little bit more of a bigger defensive-minded guy that plays the game a little different than Broberg plays the game. That if next to Barry or next to Bouchard brings a little bit of a different element. But skates well, been a good fit, local guy, sometimes a bird in the hand as opposed to wandering out into free agency to see what you can find. Sometimes that's just a little bit too tempting. So we shall see. All right, good stuff, Struddy. That was the breakdown brought to you by Park Mazda, your dealer for life in Sherwood Park off Y Road. Visit parkmazda.ca. Before I let you go today, Struds, I wanted to get your opinion on the incident that happened between the Anaheim Ducks and the Arizona Coyotes a couple of days ago. So if people didn't see, Anaheim, I think they were up 5 goals, I think.
Yeah.
They'd had a heck of a game. Their high skill players were really dangling. Trevor Zegras takes a poke at the netminder who was down late in the game, took a cross check from behind. Troy Terry goes over and grabs Jay Beagle, who was engaged, and Jay Beagle dropped his gloves and started fighting with Troy Terry, caught him with a few big shots, damaged Terry pretty good, was not able to play in the game against the Oilers. This incident sparked a lot of outrage and a lot of frustration on a couple of different levels. So there's 2 elements here. There's what happened on the ice, and we can discuss that. But then I think we should also get into what happened in the broadcast booth, because some fellow broadcasters took a pretty significant beating for their analysis in the moment of what happened. So let's start with what we saw on the ice first and foremost. Your takeaway from that incident.
Mm-hmm. So I've been on both sides where I've been giving a team a pretty good thrashing, and then I've been on what I've taken a thrashing. And, understanding the moment for me is quite important. The Ducks were given to Arizona. Arizona's had an awful season. They can't wait for it to end. And now I didn't think the poke was significant, but at that time of the game with that, with a 5-goal lead, and you're all over them, I don't think it's necessary to poke it there. Now, as soon as that happens, boom, cross check, and then, all hell breaks loose out there. And Terry comes in to support his teammate. I completely understand that. But when arriving in a pile, if you're going to, be someone who goes into the pile in a pretty aggressive stance and grab someone, you have to be prepared for the outcome. Jay Beagle's not a guy that's really known for fighting, and Jay Beagle's on tilt at that moment. He's losing his mind, and unfortunately Terry's there. Didn't really know, I don't think, what he was getting into. And it's unfortunately, as he said, Terry wasn't able to play. He got the bruised and beat up a bit. And it's a difficult thing. Now, I thought it was interesting commentary between Jen Botterill and Kevin Bieksa on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
They talked about this back and forth. And Jen Botterill, said that, there should be a rule in place to prevent this. And Bieksa was kind of pushing back. And I see both sides, but I'm going to say this. There will be almost no fighting in 5 to 10 years from now. When you look at the change of the Rule 405, when they came out of that lockout and changed the rules, where it's more free enough for skilled players, there's not as many fighters. When Reeves, Lucic, Chara, Wilson, those guys are out of the league, there's almost no fighting. Anything will be spontaneous, if anything. So the idea, I disagree with Jen. The idea to have to make a rule to make that happen, you don't need it. Fighting has come off a cliff, and it's going to continue to nosedive. My kids are watching Zegras playing. When I grew up, I watched Wendell Clark playing. Totally different situation. So I understand where Jen is coming from, but I totally disagree that you need to change the rule. The rule was changed 20 years ago and has had the intended effect. Strachan said, that's the effect that's happened. I don't know if anyone knew that fighting would drop off the cliff like it has.
Yeah, for sure. So the other controversial comments that were made were in the Arizona broadcast booth. And we need to go full disclosure here. Tyson Nash was the one that had the commentary that kind of caught fire online that a lot of people criticized very heavily. Tyson Nash is a former Kamloops Blazer. You played with him. I know him really well. To an extent, we're all buddies. So I think we need to state that before we move on to our commentary here. With that said, I feel completely comfortable in saying that I disagree with what Tyson Nash said on that broadcast. I disagree that, what ended up happening to Troy Terry, you need to expect that if as a skilled team, you're going to throw a lot of skill out there throughout the game, that should be a natural consequence. And I think, I respect Tyson Nash. He was a good, solid NHL player. He was kind of one of those agitators that drove fan bases nuts. Respectfully, I disagree with them. I think that Anaheim has a high-skilled team. I think there's a line where, at times you can cross that line with skill if a game gets out of hand. And I think you need to keep that in mind. And it's about being respectful towards your opponents. The same reason that a coach would throw a second power play unit on the ice in a 5-0 game and not the top unit on the ice in a 5-0 game. Maybe as a skilled player, you think in a 5-0 game, I'm going to play a little bit more straight. Don't want to embarrass anybody here. So I'm going to play this a certain way. And I do think that element still does exist in the game. But I don't think what happened to Troy Terry should be a result of players putting too much skill on display. So respectfully, I disagree with what Tyson Nash had to say in the broadcast booth. But I do have to say that the reaction on Twitter and the broad condemnation and people calling for his head and calling for his job, I hate that crap. He's sitting in a broadcast booth doing a live broadcast, evaluating what he sees in front of him. Like I said, I don't necessarily agree, and you have to be responsible for the things that you say, but this is not a fireable offense. This is somebody just doing their job. And the way that people always want to just start, just cutting people down and taking their livelihoods away on Twitter because you disagree or you're somewhat offended by their analysis, enough is enough with that. Just disagree with Tyson Nash if you want to. But for all the people out there talking about the need for change, firing, and all that crap, enough with that stuff. It's ridiculous. Drives me nuts, Struddy.
Yeah, the reality is that the things that were said about Tyson Nash were worse than the things he said, and that's where I think I don't understand it. It's just like, I don't get it at all. And it's easy. It's easy from your keyboard to be very aggressive against someone who don't like what they said. But it's, with what Tyson said, I do think you have to understand the moment when you're on the ice. Where are things at? And the poke, was it a significant poke? No, but yeah. The Coyotes were on tilt. You're losing 5-0. Like I said, they can't wait for their season to end. They literally know how many shifts they have left in the season before this nightmare of a year will end. And it's, that's for young players. They don't maybe understand that. They haven't been through that, right? Zegras and these guys are young. They're having fun. I get it. But they haven't seen that. They don't know what that other side looks like. And unfortunately, they caught a guy on a bad day, and that's what happened. So, I don't agree with the way Tyson Nash said it, but I do agree with the idea that you have to understand the moment of where you're at.
Yeah, I remember I was watching an Oilers practice years ago. I don't think you were on the team at this point, but Robert Nilsson was a recent call-up to the team. Remember, he was part of the Ryan Smith trade.
Yeah.
Really high-skill kid, like kind of one of those lets it hang out there, tons of skill. Really exciting young player with the skill set that he had. So he's out in probably his first 2 weeks with the team. And they're doing a drill at practice. And he's going up against Steve Staios. And Steve Staios, he's a competitor, a veteran guy and a competitor. And so what happened is the drill got broken up a little bit. And it was a drill where the defenseman had to go out to the blue line, regroup, and take the forward in a one-on-one, right? But the defenseman had to make a play to start the drill on the other side of the ice first.
Yeah.
So the pass that Staios got was no good. He had to scramble to get it, throw it up ice. He still tried to get all the way up to the blue line to regroup, which is what the defenseman have to do. But Robert Nilsson was coming down on him. Now, I don't know if Robert Nilsson saw that Staios had trouble earlier in the drill or not. But Staios was scrambling to get back to timing. Robert Nilsson pulled 3 moves, head drive, toe dragged around him, put it through his legs, and went top shelf and then put his arm up to celebrate. Well, Steve Staios came over, had him by the scruff of the neck, and had him pinned up against the glass, and was in his face. The message was, hey, settle down. Because Robert Nilsson maybe didn't recognize in the moment, look, I got to be fair here. It's a broken play, a broken drill. But instead, he let the skill hang out, and that frustrated a veteran defenseman that had a lot of pride. Different situations, but the same principle applies. There's a certain level of just understanding the moment and being respectful towards your opponents. Now, I didn't watch that whole game. I don't know how much, quote-unquote, skilling it up those guys were doing, as Tyson Nash said. But I think the answer lies somewhere here in the middle, where you need to be respectful of your opponents. But at the same time, skill needs to be allowed to skill. The game needs it, and there should not have to be this sort of physical toll that gets taken on you outside the bounds of what's fair if you quote-unquote skill it up. So respectfully disagree with Nasher on that one. But again, let's all just calm the hell down when it comes to calling for people's jobs and suggesting that, they aren't qualified. Enough is enough with that would be my sentiment.
100%.
All right, buddy. Great segment. Thanks for doing this. Not sure what the rest of your day looks like, but
yeah, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Okay, I won't tell you.
See you later, big guy.
We'll just let you get to it, pal. Yeah, good stuff. All right. Lots more to come on the program. You're listening to Got Your Back, presented by DLR Vinyl Products.
Hey, Strutty, question for you. Have you ever tried putting in your own fence?
I sure have. Between digging the posts, mixing up cement and digging the holes, it's absolute killer.
It's brutal on the back. Well, listen, what if I told you you could put in a fence without having to dig a hole or mix any concrete?
I'd be much more likely to come over and help you out.
Yeah, well, you're not the first guy I would call, but thank you for that. Listen, my brother's company, DLR Vinyl Products, they've come up with a system where you can actually put high-quality vinyl fence in the ground without having to dig a hole, without having to mix any concrete. They can teach do-it-yourselfers how to do it, and they can also work with contractors who might be looking to start installing vinyl. It's super high-quality product. The great thing about it is that it has fantastic longevity. You put it in, you don't have to worry about staining or sanding or anything like that. I've been lucky enough, Strutty. They've put in multiple fences in my different yards and they've built me 3 decks. I have totally abused the fact that my family is in the fencing and decking business, but it's great product. Give Rob a call in Calgary or Rick a call here in Edmonton. This is a company my dad started. It's a family business. I'm super proud of it, and I'm very proud that they are our title sponsors. That's DLR Vinyl Products in Edmonton and Calgary. Folks, golf season is just around the corner, and I don't know about you, but I am some kind of fired up over it. It's the perfect time to get yourself fitted for new clubs or some great new apparel. Well, DeBoers has you covered for all of it. Their facility is first class with amazing TrackMan technology in their simulators and top-of-the-field fitting specialists. You can order now for spring delivery, and they've also got a bunch of new 22 apparel for you to go check out. It's a fantastic group down there at DeBoers. The shop has a great positive feel. I highly recommend you check them out on the corner of 53rd Street and 99th Avenue. DeBoers, helping you play better golf since 1999. Hey, it's Ryan Rishaug. While many are feeling the sting of inventory shortages, Park Mazda has you covered. They've got new Mazdas arriving every month, including the redesigned 22CX-5 in whatever color you're looking for. They've also got a huge selection of used vehicles with new arrivals every week and some of the most competitive interest rates on cars, trucks, SUVs, and more. Park Mazda, your dealer for life in Sherwood Park, off Y Road. Schedule a test drive at parkmazda.ca.
Time now for Who's Got Your Back, brought to you by DeBoers Golf Shop and Fitting Center, helping you play better golf, your local golf shop, for the last 23 years. So Darren Dreger and James Duffy most days will be part of the program, but given we are a remote on location from Cancun, not the case today. But Dreg still contributed to the program. He's had a long and successful broadcast career. We do know that, but there have been some people that have lent him a helping hand along the way. In our today's Who's Got Your Back segment, Dregs shares one of those stories with us. Ladies and gentlemen, TSN Hockey Insider, Darren Dreger.
Hey guys, this is Darren Dreger. My story of someone who had my back goes all the way back to 1999. Now, I just completed my first year at the network level, hosting NHL games, the national package for Sportsnet. Thought we had just enjoyed a pretty good season. I mean, we were all rookies, myself, Nick Kiprios. Greg Millen had some experience, but largely we were the new kids on the block. So the season ends. My daughter, Katie, had just been born in April, and I'm looking forward to having some time off, looking forward to year 2 of the NHL package. You know, everything was going Darren Dreger's way, or so I thought. I get called into Scott Moore's office, Scott Moore, the boss at Sportsnet at the time, and he says, "Hey, Dregs, how do you think the season went?" And I said, you know what, Scott, we made some mistakes, but I think it went pretty well. He says to me, and kind of blindsides me with it, and I'm not blaming him. He said, look, an influential member of the hockey department doesn't see it that way, and he wants you and Nick Kiprios replaced. Thinks you're underqualified. You lack network polish. You don't have what it takes to host or be part of a main panel for the network NHL package. Man, I was blindsided. And there's probably about a 15, maybe 30-second pause. The blood is draining out of my face. I'm thinking about, what am I going to do here? You know, again, new baby. Am I going to be fired? Am I going to be pushed into a different department at Sportsnet? Should I go back to Edmonton? What should I do here? And Scott says, look, I don't see it the same way. Yeah, there's some things that we need to work on. We need to change as part of the overall panel segment, the contributions that you guys do, intermissions, all of that. But I think that you're somebody that we need to invest in long term. And he did that. Who knows? If he'd had a different position with this, I could have been pushed into another area. Again, maybe I go back to Western Canada. Who knows? But Scott Moore had my back. And because of that, my career is what it's been to this point.
And our many thanks, of course, to Darren Dreger. I can tell you, as a young broadcaster bursting onto the network scene some 18 years ago or so, Darren Dreger was a guy that paid those sorts of things forward, was always somebody that was willing to have a chat with you, whether you were at a competing network or not, and always good for career advice and mentorship. So this will be the one time I say this many nice things about Darren Dreger in one spot, but definitely paid that forward. So thank you for that story, Darren Dreger. As we head out to the basement in Kelowna and check in with our producer, Zuby, Chris Sabunia. Good story there from Dregs. Hey, I think all of us in the broadcast industry, in front of the camera, behind the scenes at some point, somebody needed to give us a helping hand and have our back.
Absolutely. I think even when we first talked about doing this podcast, I told you about our friend Daryl McIntyre at CFRN CTV in Edmonton, who and I didn't know the day of how a newscast went at the time, because I was just trying to get into school, and he took a phone call from me like out of the clear blue sky to help me with my career investigation report to try to get into Nate. And it was like 4 p.m., something like that, on the day of a newscast. And
close to showtime.
Yeah. And I really didn't think about it at all at the time, at 19 or whatever I was. And he took that call, talked to me for 10 minutes, being, super nice and accommodating. So yeah, in broadcasting for sure, everyone's got a story like that.
I remember when I was in broadcast school, I had to do, I went to BCIT out in Burnaby, and I had to do a story on, I think I was doing a football story, and I needed a local expert. So I nervously called up, grabbed the phone and nervously called, "Hi, Mr. Farhan Lalji. Hi, Mr. Lalji. My name's Ryan Rishaug. I'm a broadcast student at BCIT, and I need to do an interview about some football stuff. I was wondering if I might be able to talk to you." Yeah. And good old Farhan, we're great friends now. He was very kind, gave me some time way back then. And the reason I like this story best is because it shines a light on how much older Farhan is. Yeah. He's not gonna love that one.
No.
But, that's the way it is. And then one of my first jobs at TSN in 2004, I got to go to the Olympics with Farhan in Athens. So I've had a blast getting to know Farhan. He's one of the good ones in the business.
Yeah,
Zuby, you were in charge. Yeah, you were in charge of the inbox again this week. So let's go to the Average Joe's inbox. Average Joe's on Baseline Road in Sherwood Park. And remember, folks, we want your stories. Chris is going to read one here. gybpod@gmail.com. That's gybpod@gmail.com. If there was a time in your life where somebody had your back, did you a solid, came up big for you when you were down and out, maybe it's a heavy story, maybe it's a funny story, we don't care. We just love these stories. So send them to us, gybpod@gmail.com. What did you dig out this week for us, Chris?
Well, what I love about that, I have to say, side note, I just noticed that it says, "Hey, Ryan, Jason, and Chris." I even get some love. I even get some love on this email here. My name is Josh. I'm originally from Edmonton, but now live in Calgary. This happened a few years back, about a week and a half before Christmas. My wife and I had 2 kids at the time, a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. And my wife was a stay-at-home mom at that time, so my job was our only source of income at the time. We had something wrong with our vehicle, and after taking it to the mechanic, found out it was going to be almost $1,000 repair. It was something that needed to be done to make the car safe to drive, and with 2 kids at the time, it was an easy decision to make to get the repair completed. My wife and I began to stress and worry, though, about how we're going to be able to pay for this repair, especially after buying Christmas gifts for our kids and other family members. After a couple of days of worrying and stressing about this repair and the cost, We got a call from the mechanic that it was all done and ready to be picked up. When we got to the mechanic shop, we were ready to see how much it was going to cost us. And we got a bill that was $0. And the mechanic just said, "Merry Christmas." I couldn't believe that a complete stranger would do something like that for us, especially not knowing how we stressed and worried about how we were going to try to afford the repair. And that was a time that someone truly had my back. And that's from Josh. And that's an awesome story. And
I love that one. Got goosebumps.
Yeah, me too. And certainly, auto mechanics don't always have the, probably unfairly, but they don't always have the best reputation for things of that nature. And it's great to know that there are people out there like that in all professions. It's unfair. Some of those.
Yeah. Well, I think for people too, you got young kids or kids on the way. Christmas time is tough, right? And I don't know about you. Anytime anything stressful happens around Christmas, it's just, you don't need it during that season. And the giving spirit that people get into in and around Christmas time, as was the example there from Josh, that was a great story, Josh. Thank you so much for sending that in. And again, we want to hear your story, folks. So send them to our Average Joe's inbox, gybpod@gmail.com. I asked Struds the same question, Chris. I'll ask you too. What's the rest of your day look like, bud?
Well, there's no sunbathing. There's no Miami Vices. It's the basement. It's a basement day. I got lots of editing and animating to do.
I did think twice about whether this was a good idea or not, because I thought, people might not really care about anything that I have to say. They're just going to be grumpy and pissed off that I'm sitting here, ready to hit the beach. But we wanted to do another podcast. It's tons of fun. We're enjoying it. And I was able to, after a couple of days of overdoing it, let's just say, I needed a chill night last night. So I was actually really happy to relax in my room, watch an Oiler game, put a podcast together, get up this morning, and knock out episode 8, because I love doing this. It doesn't feel like work. So a little bit of work was a much needed break from the debauchery that's currently going on.
Little break from the vacation. Yeah, no, I get that.
Have you done the Mexico All-Ins before?
I have. Yeah, I have, a number of times, but not since we had kids. We've been talking about that lately because we just see the value in not our vacations lately are like, we're still cooking, we're still cleaning, all that stuff, anything that we do. So we're like, I think we need to get to an all-inclusive. I think it would be great to, you're hungry? Let's go to the buffet.
Yeah. So how about this? I don't know. So it's all about getting down really early in the morning to get your seat at the pool. I didn't realize this. This is the first all-in I've done. And it turns out it's like a goat rodeo. You have to get up insanely early to go get a good seat in a cabana. Turns out, because I'm in the podcasting business now, I have the sleeping hours of a newborn baby. So I'm awake at like 4:00 in the morning anyways. Right. I thought, okay, I'll go down. So the first day I go down at 5:45 and I lay out towels in a cabana and towels, 2 chairs for our friends that are here with us. That's what everybody else is doing. They're laying out stuff. And I thought, okay, we're good. So left, wife and I grabbed some breakfast, went back down, and a lady and her husband were sitting in the seats that we had put towels on that were for our friends. And so I was like, oh, I feel like that's against the rules. And I didn't know what to do. And my wife's like, don't say anything. Just don't say anything. But I was like, no, I want to say something. And I was really, really polite. So they were from Texas. I just said to her, listen, I'm new here and I'm trying to understand the rules. I thought if you put towels down that the seats were safe. And, I'm just wondering, what did I do wrong here? Kind of thinking maybe she'd be like, oh, sorry, we'll move, but not really expecting it. And she said, oh, no, there were no personal belongings. You have to have personal belongings on the chair. And I was looking around and I said, well, there's a whole bunch here that don't have any personal belongings on them. She said, oh, yeah, well, you could just go take 2 of those. And so I said, oh, well, would you mind going to just do that? Because I'm not comfortable with that. You clearly are. So would you mind going to do that? And she's like, no, we like these ones. So she wouldn't move. And so, but I was not going to do that. I was not going to go just move people's towels and just take their seats. So,
and then
as it turns out,
and then use that phrase like, oh, sorry, there were no personal belongings here. Yeah,
no,
I don't like that either.
So I'm learning on the fly now. I feel like proper etiquette was not recognized in that moment, but I wasn't going to make a thing of it. So this morning I went down and I had like a pair of water shoes, and a book. I was holding like this in like a bag, and now I'm just like laying things out all over the place.
Snickers bar.
I think we've, yeah, exactly. I think I got it on lock now. We've got it all figured out.
Oh gosh,
that's anyways,
funny.
Yeah, I'm learning the way this all works, and the whole idea of eating whatever you want, whenever you want, not a good scenario for me at all.
I thought when you said, now that I'm in the podcasting business, and you were referring to you being up early enough to go out, and I thought you were going to say, now that I'm in the podcasting business, people recognize me and they're like, oh, please take these seats, Mr. Rishaug.
Dude, no, it's not much recognition factor down here in Cancun. Buddy.
Even with the hat.
Yeah, exactly. Courtesy our friends at Tylene. Anyways, thank you for getting up early and doing this. I'm going to go back on holidays here for a couple of days. I think we're going to try and drop a pod later on this week. Going to have a great conversation with Katie Strang from The Athletic.
Yeah.
She is a fantastic, highly consequential reporter for The Athletic. She does some of the toughest reporting there is in our sports industry, her along with Rick Westhead. So going to catch up with Katie and hoping to drop that podcast probably Thursday or Friday. So thanks for doing this, Chris. Enjoy the rest of your day, pal.
You got it. You too, man. Enjoy the sun.
Oh, yes, I will. And a big thank you, as always, to all of our sponsors, DLR Vinyl Products, Park Mazda, Belvan Construction, Divorce Golf Shop, and, of course, Average Joe's Sports Bar in Sherwood Park. Thanks for downloading and subscribing. Paying some attention to us. Not sure how many people are listening or watching, but we're having lots of fun, so we're going to stick with it. This has been Got Your Back, presented by DLR Vinyl Products. Have a good day, folks.
Average Joe's Sports Bar in Sherwood Park has proudly served the community and supported minor sports in the area for almost 20 years. It's a great gathering place for sports fans. Average Joe's has massive big screen TVs, comfortable seating, and a friendly staff waiting to make your experience anything but average. Come check it out on Baseline Road, right next to Home Depot, or make a reservation by calling 780-417-1113. That's Average Joe's on Baseline Road in Sherwood Park.